if you're paying attention, she's pretty hot.
Like Minnie Driver too, I feel like falls into that like girl next door category.
Thomas, you ain't gonna acknowledge my skills. Maybe you will after I kick your ass.
Oh, oh, he might have busted. That was I was like, man, I mean, she's hot, but you got to wait a couple minutes. That's a premature, but.
Happened in the 90s.
Man, they did. They did a good job of like selling you and getting you hyped. And it's because of Vince, Ted Turner wasn't out there putting the company on his back, selling it, like literally selling it to you on the screen too. That's dope.
Ted Turner, he held more hats than Vince at the time, at least. So, I always want to give props to Ted because he's a fellow Ohioan. He claims it. Okay. He was raised here in Georgia, but and he did his thing, man. But like Vince, though, and this was before pyrotechnics. Like, during the Raw era, you would get his introductions, but then you got the fireworks on top of that. But like just his voice alone at the beginning of those pay-per-views, it was like, oh my God, I got to get this. He did the promos for him.
Yeah, just like his voice rumbling as they're like doing these like crane shots of just white trash in the crowd. Like people are like, yeah, they're missing teeth. And he's just like, we're here in the Minnesota, like Pepsi Dome or whatever, just some shit place. But he made it better, dude. He's a salesman. This guy's a winner, dude. I'm sick of, I'm not going to go into it. Bad take, Steve. I'm just a lover of all things Vince, except a couple of things.
Yeah, we could do without it, man. He is my Stan Lee, and like when he passed, like I felt my comic book nerd's plight.
I feel like Stan was like the friendly like grandfather, like Obi-Wan Kenobi type, and Vince is more of the, the guy like what's Randy Quaid in the National Lampoons. He's the party starter.
Well, you can be a friendly guy in the comic book world because you're creating the stories. It's like they love the fascinating stories you create. I feel like you can't do that in wrestling. Like to
True.
Get where Vince is, he has to be that kind of like cutthroat kind of person.
You think that at some point though, because at first he was the owner / this guy announcing, and he was like sort of like the clean cut guy for the most part. He was the control against like Jesse the Body or somebody. Like he was kind of like the straight man in the duo.
He was the straight man, yeah.
And he embodied this like the boss, like the bad guy boss Vince that we all know and love. And do you think like he pulled like an Andrew Dice Clay at some point where he's just like fully like into that? Like he thinks he is that now, like it transferred, or is he just a guy that can play a part, but he has like a couple of skeletons in his closet type thing? Because I feel like at some point the persona took over, Steve.
He's always been that guy.
Maybe.
I mean, he turns it up more when he is Mr. McMahon. And like, I didn't realize this. Like they made sure to not mention him as Vince McMahon during the Attitude Era. He was always Mr. McMahon. Once he became that person, he was Mr. McMahon.
You'll respect me.
Yeah.
You're fired.
So good, man.
But I agree. I mean, he's a great just announcer. If that was all he did, he was great at it for sure.
If that's all he did, man. So, what's your take on Catherine Keener?
Catherine Keener, Steve. Educate me, enlighten me. It sounds familiar.
You know Catherine Keener, 40-year-old virgin. Catherine Keener.
Yeah, she's like a hot milfy type. I think that's what the part she kind of played in 40-Year-Old Virgin. I mean, that's what she played in the 40-Year-Old Virgin.
She deserves her own lane. I think she's one of the Hollywood like subdued beauties. Like I would do her, but she's not like out there Pamela Anderson kind of like she was never presented that way. But it's like if you're paying attention, she's pretty hot.
Like Minnie Driver too, I feel like falls into that like girl next door category, if you will, Steve. Like the attainable beauty.
And as she got older, she became like the hot mom, like soccer mom. Because wasn't she in
Is it Marissa Tomei that too? Is that who plays Peter Parker's Aunt May in those movies? It's like kind of that same thing. It's not Keener, but you know what I'm talking about. Maybe it's not Tomei. These women that we're talking about, they came from like a they're all the same prototype almost, Steve. Like they could all be the same person almost. It seems like a psyop, if I'm being honest.
You're talking about Forrest Gump's mom, aren't you?
No, that's Sally Field, Steve.
Sally Field.
Sally
Okay.
Field, dude, for the like of her time, Sally Field. I get why that principal was putting the bricks to her in the house, Steve. I get it. Dude, Forrest is a G, dude.
Your mama sure do care about your learning. This is Steve G and Mad G with Happened in the 90s, a show where we talk about what happened in the 90s. So get out your Slim Shady LPs and your King Griffey Juniors, because this is just a punk rock song. This is just a punk rock song. This is just a punk rock song.
It wasn't as sensual as it usually is.
Yeah, it's I have to touch on my punk rock tendencies from time to time.
This one's for the fellas.
For my punk rockers, my Bad Religion purists. Today, my friend, we're talking all things February 27th in the 90s. Starting off in 1993, we would lose American actress Lillian Gish at the age of 99.
Gish the dish, Steve.
Probably doesn't ring a bell, but it should, though, for both of us, Matt.
Why is that?
Because the drama center at Bowling Green, Ohio was called the Lillian Gish Theater. It used to be called that.
Okay.
But they removed it. They removed her name. They removed any association with her of it because she was the star of the Birth of a Nation, the old Birth of a Nation. Yes.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh. Well, I don't know how to feel because now that name does something. Was it? I mean, there was something. Wasn't there something called the Gish though?
The Gish Theater. Yeah, that's her, Lillian Gish.
When did they take that away? Because it was there when we were there.
It was there when we were there. They took it down. I want to say recently. It's like, man, y'all knew this whole time. Did y'all just check her wiki like today?
History department, Jesus. Like, don't look into that though. It's cool. Gish, probably 1,000 of them back then. It's cool.
Born in Springfield, Ohio. Yeah,
that makes sense. I don't even know why I said that.
It was dedicated on June 11, 1976. The BGSU Film Theater. It was previously named that, the Lillian Gish Film Theater and Gallery, and they removed it. And it looks like 2019 they removed it.
Wow, nice way to pick up the pieces there. Just but I don't know. That's kind of crazy. Wow, this star of Birth of a Nation. Should have checked the IMDb page, guys.
And that's where I went to film school. Yeah. I think that's very that speaks on the, like, my experience in Northwest Ohio right there. That's what it is.
Apropos, Steve.
It's very apropos. Thank you.
There you go. English paid off for me. Yeah, that is crazy, but lady, you should have known better. That's all I'll have to say. Gish, you're not a dish. In fact, I won't even put you in the stove.
You're not delish.
Yeah. Get out of here, Gish. Your Gish ass.
Sucking off D.W. Griffin to get a role. And I get it. Actors, they all just need to work, but fuck, man.
Yeah, she's like, I need to pay rent. Lillian, all we got's this one. It's a little bit.
Yeah. I get it, but
about just bigotry. How about that?
Yeah. Something like nothing in you said, like, man, this doesn't sit well with my soul. So, fuck D.W. Griffith, fuck Lillian Gish, fuck Birth of a Nation, everybody associated with it. Well, which one of those president? It was like the president at the time. It was like his favorite movie. It's like, oh, I gotta watch this again. It was like his Home Alone. Like, get the popcorn. Like, fuck that president.
Pointing at the TV, and once he's like, dude, this is the part. This is it. Chill. Yeah. Everyone, shut up.
Might have been Woodrow Wilson's whole ass.
You know what Clarence Williams III would say, Steve?
Shut up, bitch!
Yeah, that's what he would say. But shame on you, Lillian. Shame on all these fucking tuds. But what's it called now? Can I ask? What did it change to? What's the drama department name currently at BG? It's something even worse.
The Weinstein
The
Arena.
Auschwitz fucking. It's just called Auschwitz now. They're leading into all this fucking shit now that Trump's in. That's tough, Steve. Well, you went
They
there
don't even say.
wholesale, which was just run by a criminal con man. But choose your poison. We both know how to work a camera and edit video, so we got what we wanted out of it.
And shout out to those Bowling Green students that requested it to be removed. So it all started from there.
Okay, little protest. It actually did something. There you go. Nice, BG. Listening to the students.
I could have done something.
We were protesting something in Bromfield, Steve. I can't know. I don't remember what it was. But
Bush.
The system. I don't know.
Yeah, I was just anti-Bush, but anywho, that following year, 1994, Martin is airing season 2, episode 21, Guard Your Grill. Martin agrees to take part in a charity boxing match without knowing who his opponent will be. Oh man!
And boy, this is what happens when you run your mouth, Steve. That's all I gotta say.
Punks jump up to get beat down.
Oh, I get it. Yeah, it's the Detroit DJ Charity Boxing Exhibition. It's the throwdown in Motown, Steve. Dozens of people have shown up to watch two DJs beat the shit out of each other, including celebrity judge Thomas Hitman Hearns, which legend. Love that. But I think Martin's taking it a little seriously. We all know he's got the skills. He's got the hands. We've seen it. He throws it down every once in a while. But he's taking it real. It's almost like he's trying to get a title, which he is, I guess. There's some kind of belt involved in this.
He is Martin Raw Dog Payne.
Raw Dog. Woo, woo, woo. But the other guy, I don't know, Steve. I don't know what the other radio station does. It seems like this guy might have a couple of screws loose. Seems a little slow. I'm not cool with it. And he's also he's under the impression that they're joking around.
He's supposed to be off for show.
Yeah. So they get in there. He's like, man, you actually got these people thinking that you hate me. And that's where the dog comes out, the real Raw Dog. And he's like, punks jump up to get beat down. And he's dead. I mean, dead eyed. He's got shark eyes, Steve.
Oh, I get it. Yeah. Dumbo, I'm looking for you.
Yeah. So bell rings, Steve. And the dog's got to eat. So he two pieces, dude. It's a Mike Tyson match, Steve. Yeah. He gets in, just blasts the dude with a combo, knocks him out. I mean, he knocks him silly. And then the big dude comes to and is like, yo, man. And this is where I'm like, I don't know if you knocked this guy stupid, but he sounds slow, Steve.
It's supposed to be a charity event. You don't get it. You just don't get it.
And he just runs away. He's done. Fuck this nonsense. Martin's pumped. He just beat the shit out of this guy. He's giving speeches. He thinks he's Rocky, but everyone else is like, yo, dude, this is a charity event. I think even stands like, congratulations to the only man to ever knock someone out in a charity boxing match. Fucking Thomas the Hitman Hearns is not, he just seems like he just doesn't give a fuck, Steve. He's not respecting the fucking Raw Dog.
He's not impressed. And it didn't help that they gave him this Dollar Tree CBC belt.
I mean, it's the charity boxing championship. You know what I'm saying? You gotta own it. He pieced the dude up. Bobo or whatever that big dude's name was, he could have just held him and just done the George Foreman thing and tired him out a little bit. But Martin's a champ. And now he's about to have a party to celebrate over at the crib. Steve, everyone's invited at this place, which, I mean, he's got an apartment, but, there's only 50 or 60 people here. It's cool.
He does have the Hitman there. And Martin comes out to the living room. He's like, guard your grill. I can go toe-to-toe with anybody. Flow.
If you're sitting down, he's throwing it right in your face, too. He's like, yeah. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about right there. That Asian chick gets a face full, and she's liking it. She's liking
Speaks
the
for
champ.
itself.
He introduces, I mean, the champ to champ time is here. There's two champions in this room. Martin obviously wants to have his propers because he just in public beat the shit out of a guy. And he walks up to Thomas the Hitman Hearns, and he's not getting anywhere with this guy, Steve. Thomas the Hitman Hearns is again not respecting the flow.
Martin asked him, like, I know you saw the fight. It's like, I was too busy checking out that fine honey. And he's like, oh, her over here? That's my woman. And then Tommy has a little aside with his homeboy, like, man, that's his lady, man. What's
That's
he gonna
Lil
do with a
Man.
woman
That's
like that?
Lil Man's lady. He calls him
Yeah.
Lil Man, Steve.
Yeah.
What's that? Martin doesn't like that. And then he's like, yo, man, he announces it's his lady. And then Gina tries to step in between, and it turns out like Gina actually like rode in the limo to get Tommy to this party because he didn't know where he's at. He's in Detroit.
Yeah.
So there's just a little miscommunication in here, but Martin obviously makes it a point to tell him what he did. But then Thomas just goes back in. The hitman's zeroed in on his prey, and he's looking at Gina. He's like, yo, we're actually about to leave, so you want to come with me? And Martin's like, yo, dude, like just aside real quick, this is a terrifying thing as a normal man if the champion of like actual boxing is hitting on your woman. I mean, it's kind of feels good, but also you're going to get punked out, Steve.
In your house.
Yeah.
And he tells Martin, like, look here, little man, when nobody talking to you. And then he goes back to Jeans, like, look, baby, we could take care of you. And then Martin, he's had enough at this point. Thomas, you ain't gonna acknowledge my skills. Maybe you will after I kick your ass.
Oh, I mean, there's no logic here, Steve. He's trying to fight for his life at this point, but that's not the move that I think I would go with. But that's what he's done.
I just talked to Sugar. He called you to get Hitman.
He challenges him to a fight. What is it? 2 weeks?
The brawl for it all, Matt.
Oh yeah, but Thomas leaves. Martin's left in the ashes of this promise that he's done, and now he realizes what he's done. The adrenaline's gone, people are gone, his friends are surrounding him, and he's like, what did I do? Did I just challenge like one of the greatest boxers of all time to an actual boxing match? Shit.
10 rounds?
God. It's suicide, Steve. It's really what it is. It's suicide by boxer, if that's ever happened. I don't think so, but
Cole, he steps in. He's like, man, like, what are you worried about? I saw him at the airport this morning.
Getting on a plane, man. Martin's like, oh, yeah. And Tommy's like, yeah, dude, like, you think he's going to come back? You think he cares about this? He's not going to show up. So now Martin's like, the wheels are turning. He's like, oh, okay. So he's like, well, I'm just not going to show up either. He's like, Cole's like, no, man, you're going to look like a punk if you don't show up, ready to go. So now that's the move. They're like, well, there's no stakes. I'm just going to work out hard as fuck for 2 weeks, come in looking like a fucking stallion, hire some guy to take a dive, and I'm the hero. And he's a fucking chud. It's a good plan, Steve.
His name is Raw Dog.
And this is where we get the fucking montage. You got me fired up. I was doing a little shadow boxing in the living room.
And he's training with Kenji from those Dragonfly Jones scenes.
Yeah, of course, dude. That guy's learned from the best. Of course you want that guy in there. But yeah, I mean, he's getting it. It starts slow. He's not in the gym all the time. So he's hitting the speed bag. He's going into the bags. He's doing his footwork, getting beat up. And by the end of this montage, Steve, like I'm thinking to myself, like, maybe he actually has a shot.
I mean, it's no Rocky, but you see progress.
Yeah, dude. He's getting the fucking footwork in. He's getting the jump ropes, like to the point where he's doing like the crazy moves with it. The little like nunchuck moves that they throw in when they're really good at jump rope. He's doing it all. And I'm impressed. He's ready to go. Cole, and throughout this montage, I just have to say, can't work a water bottle to save his life. He's just spraying him. I mean, bukkake-ing him with water to the point where by the end of it, he's taped up and he's basically just like a cup holder. He ain't doing nothing else. But now it's time for the fight, Steve. This is it.
And Stan introduces him. It's Martin Raw Dog Payne, and this Asiatic looking brother right here, Kenji.
Kenji is, I mean, to be honest with you, I feel like that's not a great move either because that's a big dude. But Martin's, he's scrappy. So he's getting ready to go. He's feeling good, but he turns his back and Kenji gets a little tap on the shoulder. And it turns out Hitman didn't leave town, Steve. And he brought the gear. He's ready to go.
He's ready to go, man. And then by the time Martin turns around, he sees it's Thomas the Hitman Hearns, not Kenji. And he's like, Cole, I thought you said you saw him in the airport. Oh, I guess he was coming in, not leaving.
Oh, Cole. Tape his ass up, Steve. But now there's nowhere to go. He has to just survive this. He's stuck in the ring with the fucking tiger right now, Steve.
How you doing? What are you doing here? Came here to get my ass kicked.
Man, I said you was the get hit, man. I'm sorry, man. I mean, he totally bitches out. Gina's obviously terrified.
But Stan always has the golden advice. You know, Martin, sometimes it takes a big man to run like a little girl.
And so, I mean, the consensus is get the fuck out. Curl up like a grizzly when a bear attacks you and just take whatever you got and get out of here alive. But he ain't going to do that, Steve. He's got his woman here. He's got the fucking Detroit on his shoulders right now. He can't go out like a punk like that, Steve. So the training starts kicking in, and it's not doing much, to be honest with you. He's getting tagged up. Thomas is just basically fucking with him,
It's a lot of below the belt.
Yeah. I mean, obviously he's throwing an uppercut, but that's just a nut shot to Thomas the Hitman Hearns, who's got to be above 6 foot,
He's going for the legs, and I hear the commentators say he thinks he's Antonio Inoki. Then he gets knocked through the ropes. It's like, give me a bucket of fries, 2 chitlins, and a bucket of sunflower seeds.
He tries to fight the ref at one point. Like he just doesn't know what's going on. And at some point though, Steve, there's like this just golden moment where he's getting it. He hits him with one. He gets that little body combination. He throws like a little Van Vader shit going on in there. A couple of body shots.
Little comeback.
He feels great. What he should have done is just, keep the pressure on. But what he does is be like, yo, Gene, I'm doing it. I actually hit this dude. And while he takes 5 seconds to just celebrate, Thomas the Hitman Hearns unleashes a to call it a haymaker, Steve, I don't know. Because he punches Martin into the stratosphere.
He gave him a Hadouken.
Yeah, definitely. Shoryuken. I mean, everyone's just watches it. It's one of those shots, like the Free Willy shot, where you're just like looking at something. Pam's laughing her ass off while Martin's flying through the air, which I just love that. And then we look, and it's like a Looney Tunes cartoon, Steve. He gets punched into the wall. It looks great, but he even punched 10 feet, whatever, into a wall. He's like, man, I didn't give up, man. And he even gets propers from Thomas the Hitman Hearns, Steve.
Yeah, little man, you got heart.
I want to go home, Gina.
If you ever encounter somebody that talks like that, like a lift, like that person's gotten into a lot of fights.
Yeah. And he's a big dude anyway. So you don't want to just go at somebody when you're half the size and he could fuck somebody up. Because, it's on video. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't a secret.
Like that's one of those indicators, man. Like you're that big with a lift, or like you got cauliflower ear. Leave that man alone.
Yeah. Just, understand, look at from his side of it. He's been dealing, like you said, he's got 30 years of just fucking, also just dealing with like some bully from his past. That's probably why he's hitting so hard. He's like, shut up.
I came here to get my ass kicked.
Yeah, but So Martin, I feel like this is a good look for him, though. He stood up to not a bully, but he stood up to a fucking boxer. And while he didn't win, he didn't give up, you know? Never
Yeah.
said I give up. And so had he not been uppercutted into what I can only call, the upper atmosphere, he gets out to where he's generating some heat. He might have at least gotten a couple more rounds in, but we see the aftermath of this fight as this he's in his apartment with Gina. She's like, come on, just come out. Nobody's here, nobody's gonna see you, so we don't know what to expect. And he comes out looking like what's his face from that Cher movie, Steve?
The Mask.
Yeah, dude. He's dealing with some swelling. You know what I'm saying?
It looked like 3 raisinets on the top of his head, or some goobers, like 3 goobers on his head.
They did a great job of it because there is some kind of like he can still smile and it looks hilarious. And he's like, "You still love me?" And she's like, "Of course I love you." And he's like, "You want to give me a kiss?" And she's
Blows him a kiss, but then after that, she actually does kiss him, and everybody's like, ugh.
like, something popped, Steve. She might have popped something though, putting pressure on that face like that. But they're in love, Steve. It doesn't matter. My wife wants to kiss my ugly mug for the rest of our lives. So it just, it's a give and take. But after that, credits start, we get a little dance montage where they're just doing a little doo-wop with his swollen grill, So he's still got some sense of humor. He's all right.
Yeah. It'll swell.
The CTE that he gets later on from this cosmic ass whooping might be crippling, but he stood up for himself, Steve. I love that.
In 1996, Third Rock from the Sun is airing season 1, episode 8, Body and Soul and Dick. And an obnoxious professor dies, and his will says he wants Dick to speak at his funeral.
And we get a nice cameo here too, Steve.
Another Martin.
Love Martin Crane showing up. But yeah, I mean, again, just the titles alone of this, just put them on a poster. It's one of the funniest things of all time. These people knew what they were doing.
They know what they're doing.
Yeah. We started off in the apartment, and, these aliens are living up in the attic of some house or whatever. And Harry gets them set up with some cable.
72 channels.
That's great. I mean, I remember when this happened, Steve. When I was a little boy, we had a TV with whatever. And then there was a day where we got a black box that didn't even have like a remote. It just had a twist dial on it. But that's when I got the MTVs and the Nickelodeons. That was the day where I didn't go outside for a very long time, and I loved it.
That was the time to have cable, man.
Yeah, it was awesome. But they got to go. They're going to some it's just like a celebration of a professor at the school. So Harry's coming. Sally's coming. Sally's looking damn great in this.
Yeah, she's hot.
The ways, she's come to Earth and she's figuring that part of it out.
And Tommy, he comes home with his girlfriend, and she's a cheerleader. Her name's Cheryl, and she even does a little cheer for him. And I think it was Sally that asked, like, whatever happened to August? And Tommy says, well, she's bright and she's honest and everything, but Cheryl's easy.
Tommy's a bro, Steve. He gets it. You see those legs? So Tommy's a coxman. He's going to get something with this cheerleader. They go to this party. It's for one Dr. Hanlon, I believe is his name in the show, played by Martin Crane. John Mahoney, great actor. Again, wild, he's British. I don't think if you watched him on TV, you would have thought that.
Never would have thought that.
In this show, Dr. Hanlon's a cunt. To be kind of political about it, he's just pretty upfront about hating basically anything, and he doesn't hesitate to tell you about it. He calls people bootlickers to their face, which wild thing to call somebody, but also baller. I feel like pretty cool.
It's like Vince McMahon level. He even tells them, like, not that I don't mind getting my boots licked, I just find you all contemptible.
Nina shows up, and he's like, Nina, why are you here? You're secretary.
You're a secretary, yeah.
Fuck out of here. And he sees at some point, Dick shows up with the squad, and Hanlon likes Dick because he
He likes
because he loves Dick. It's a thing of his, but because he's honest. Dick has this. He's an alien, so he's kind of has this weird way of talking to people that's upfront as well, and he doesn't really. I mean, in the first conversation we see, he's like, "Oh, I think you're a piece of shit," basically. He's like, "You're crazy." They have like a back and forth that's just basically grumpy old men,
I like you, Solomon. No one hates me more than your friend, Dr. And then Jane Curtin chimes in, Albright. It's Albright.
Yeah, whatever, you crazy broad.
Yeah.
Anywho, guys talking. So they have a little conversation. Dr. Mary talks to Dick after their little interaction. She's like, dude, that guy is he sucks. I hope he dies. Like, she just says it. I mean, and this is a dangerous thing. I've seen this happen in real life. There's an implication when you do this that's dangerous. So she wishes death upon this guy, and he is a prick. I understand that.
And then he runs into Sally, and he's like, oh, you're Dr. Solomon's secretary. You're better looking than he is. And then she's like, hey, I'm up here. Oh, that's what they all think. And then she grabs him by the neck, and he's like, oh, Amazon woman's going to manhandle me, huh?
And this is the first boner he's had in years. So she's like, ugh. She lets him go. But he like goes, he's like is over by a table, and then he just is like, oh, he might have busted. I was like, man, she's hot, but you got to wait a couple minutes. It's a premature, but it's not a bust, Steve. His heart gave out on him.
I think he's dead. And then Dick's like, Dr. Albright, your wish came true.
Everyone's like, bitch, what the fuck? Yeah. And so quick cameo, quick blink and you miss a cameo by John Mahoney, but a very impactful cameo, I'll say. So dude's dead. We cut back to the apartment, and Tommy's just trying to help the cheerleader out with whatever, but basically trying to get some. But then he goes out to get like a Dr. Pepper or something, and August shows up because they have a science project to do. But he's like, because this is his first time getting into this situation as a coxman, Steve. This is where it's gonna lead you,
Getting caught up. And then Cheryl, she comes into the kitchen, and August is like, Cheryl, there's something different about you. Is it your hair? Oh, no, you're holding a book.
Yeah, they're clearly, it's nerd versus cheerleader energy. Tommy's just sort of, he can't figure it out. He's just like mush mouth. He's like, August, like, because Cheryl goes back into the room and she's like, it's fine. Like, we didn't want anything anyway. So I'm just going to go. And she just leaves. And he's like, but August. But then he's like, oh, because Cheryl comes back and is like, where's my soda? Okay. That's not diet soda. She's one of those, Steve.
And I cut back to the rest of the crew. Sally thinks she killed Dr. Henlon. And I think it was a doctor or coroner who said, like, I think we all know why Dr. Henlon died. He ignored his diet. He did it to himself.
And they're like, cool. So it wasn't us. And they just start hammering the buffet, Steve.
Bet.
Everyone else left. There's a bunch of sliced meats on this table at least. I'm going to make a couple of cracker sandwiches.
Man, my own charcuterie board.
Yeah, dude. Private. So there's a man dead. I do like how they try to like get out like fucking cartoon robbers too. Like when they think they're going to get arrested, they're like, all we got to do is just sneak out real quick. And they're like tiptoeing past the cops. Now these aliens, I guess, they don't die, but they don't have any concept of death. So now they're in the apartment, like sort of pontificating about how this can happen, like how it's so sudden. It's very philosophical, Steve.
In the office, Nina brings in a note to Dick, and it's requesting that he does a eulogy. It's basically a pre-written note by Dr. Henlon that's requesting him to do the will or the eulogy.
Yeah, and Dick's like, he wants an honest eulogy. Like, I'll just be like, good riddance, and let's call it a day. And Mary's like, You can't do that. You can't give an honest eulogy. It'll just be an insult to the man. So you can't do this, Dick. Don't be a dick, Dick.
And Nina suggests, how about we love him more today than yesterday?
Perfect. It's concise, gets you in and out, gets you right to that table with the sliced meats. So again, you get the house. So now this is on his plate. This is crazy too. I don't like how this can randomly happen. I guess it's a beautiful thing to be asked to eulogize somebody, but somebody you don't know, it's tough. I'd be like, huh? Me? Doesn't he have a brother or something? Somebody? The
Anybody.
guy who hates him, he's that much of a bitch or of a cunt, Steve. He just is so hateful that he wants to go out in just a hateful way, even to himself.
And back at the house, Cheryl, she's over there still cheering when they're supposed to be studying. Tommy's over it. I think he's just like, yeah, this is a waste.
She's annoying, Steve. She's got like hostess energy. It's like you don't have to scream cheer everything to us in this fucking apartment. Everyone's over Cheryl, to be honest with you. I'm more of an August person myself. I like the energy she brings. But Dick's working on this eulogy. And now, I mean, he's so desperate. He's got Miss Dubček he's trying to get something off of her. He's like, I've got to do this eulogy. Like, have you ever gone to a funeral? Have you ever heard a eulogy? And she's like, my second husband's funeral. She says something really trashy, but that's who Miss Dubček is. And, it gives Dick a little food for thought, I guess. It's a different way to go with it.
He even asked her to come because he's like, I just need a babbling eccentric to create a diversion.
That's what it was. Her story was somebody did something and then they just they forgot to do the eulogy. So he's like, oh, okay. All right. So there's the Dubček method, which he might have to pull the emergency cord and do that. But, for right now, he's just still trying to figure it out. So then we cut to class and he's doing, freaking Goodwill Hunting math on the board, Steve. I don't know. It's a crazy thing. He's like, you know what, guys? Little secret time here. We're all life's short. We got to be happy. I want to know all of your darkest secrets. So he starts going to the room like, what about you? What about you? He gets to the Pittman guy who's sort of like a recurring character. He's like a very nerdy dude. Yeah. And Pittman's a genius because he's like, how about you? What about you, Dr. Solomon? Tell me about what you're afraid of or what your darkest secret is. And Dick actually tells him the truth, Steve. He's like, actually, I'm an alien, okay?
I'm not a human.
Yeah, but then the bell rings and everyone just leaves. It kind of just passes by. But he did say it, Steve. He's told the truth. So still really nowhere. The kids didn't really give him any good advice on a eulogy or dark secrets, but he's still working on it.
And he even asked the kids, like, if anyone has anything to say or speak on the life of Dr. Henlon, and everyone raised their hand. Anything nice. I need something nice. And then everyone lowered their hand.
This guy's a prick, and everyone knows it. So cut to later, and there's nothing good to say. So he's consulting with a religious guy, like a reverend or a priest or something. And he's like, dude, I can't find anything good to say about this guy. I got to eulogize him. And the reverend's like, dude, you just got to look, I know it's hard, but everyone has something good about them. Even the worst person, there's one good thing about them. So you just got to look deep inside yourself and inside your relationship and just find that one thing to say. And that's all you got to do. And he's like, just out of curiosity, who are you eulogizing? And he's like, oh, one of my colleagues, Dr. Hanlon. And the priest is like, Dr. whatever Hanlon. And he's like, yeah, that guy. He's like, good luck. Even the priest gave up hope, dude. There's nothing good about him, dude. Mahoney's just a beast in this timeline.
And then back at the apartment, Tommy's studying with Augustine now on the roof. And he tells her, like, hey, I don't want Cheryl. I want you. Like, how do you feel about that? It's like, well, if you want to be with me, take me to someplace nice. It's like, okay, I got it. I know of a place. My dad, he's doing this thing for a guy he knows tomorrow, and everyone's going to be dressed up there. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Sounds like a plan.
What is it? You should have just asked one question, August, but she thinks she's going to some fancy soiree. It's a funeral. I guess you could call it that. Yeah, that's tough. Tommy's really he's taking some L's in this episode, Steve. You know, the Coxman's taking a couple L's.
Growing pains.
Nice. I like that. Later, like that night, everyone wakes up because Harry is like talking in the kitchen, and everyone's like, they come out and they're like, "Hey, who are you talking to?" And he covers up this person he's talking to, like to hide it. And they're like, "Who is this? Like, what's going on?" And they take the cover off. This is fucking crazy. But Harry like absconded with Dr. Hanlon's dead body
So
somehow.
many questions. Like,
And
so,
he's just talking to a dead body. This is cryptic. This is
yeah.
dark in a way. You know, I don't know.
It's only a 30-minute show, so like they have to leave a lot out. But yeah, so many questions.
Yeah.
And Dick tells Harry like, "Hey, that's not Dr. Hamlin anymore. He's an empty vessel." And I can't remember who asked like, "Will our bodies end up like that?"
It's like, well, no, because we'll be in a different universe. Like when these bodies die, we're just gonna go home. You know, like that's basically what his answer is. I don't know if they bring that up here, but they do have that conversation. So we cut to the funeral. August gets there, sees exactly what it is immediately, and is like, "Is this a fucking funeral?" And Tommy's like, "Yeah, is that a thing? Like, what's wrong?" Because he's an alien, he doesn't understand the implications. And I mean, to her credit, she doesn't leave. I guess.
You didn't see all the marked cars in front of the church or wherever they're at, but yeah, like Dr. Solomon, he does a eulogy, and it's actually he's saying some real shit. He's like he was governed by the law of physics, as are all living things. It is a scientific fact that hearts and clocks slow down as they approach the speed of light, the point at which matter is converted into energy. Dr. Hanlon's heart approached that speed on Friday evening at 7:57, according to the coroner, converting his matter into energy, into pure white light. Though he is no longer with us, he is all around us. And then Jane or Mary,
Awesome.
she's yeah, that was beautiful. That's absolutely beautiful. And then she just runs out. She's just like torn.
I mean, that's a good one to say for anybody who has to do a eulogy. Like, that's a good go-to because honestly, that's great. It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
He touches everybody. I don't think this is the eulogy that the hateful Dr. Hanlon would have wanted, but he got something nice on his way out. So he's done his job. Dick's succeeded. Dick's done what Dick usually does and uses his high intellect in some way to just mistakenly like win. So now we cut to the ending. It's not on the roof. They're actually like on the. I think they're in their car, which is like a convertible, and they're just like looking up at the sky.
Yeah.
And they're just still like kind of fucked up about the concept of death. Like Dick's like, it just makes me want to like share my life, like share this with somebody. You know?
Savor every moment.
Yeah.
And Harry's like, I want one of those cheeseburgers with the 3 buns.
I do too, honestly, Harry. I'm Harry, honestly. That's a simple life is what you really should strive for. This is where Tommy does ask Dick, like, what's gonna happen like to us? You know, we've taken these bodies over, but like when they die, are we gonna die? Are we just turning into nothing? And Dick's like, no, we'll go to back to home. And they're like, well, how do we know when that's gonna happen? And he's like, well, we're gonna stay here until we learn everything there is to learn about life. And so I mean, Jesus.
And Harry's like, well, good thing we have cable.
Exactly. That's everyone, Steve. Harry's the everyman. But just another great episode of Third Rock from the Sun. Dick succeeds yet again. You know?
Shout out John Lithgow. On that same day in 1996, Bad Religion released The Gray Race. And I know you're not big on Bad Religion or even punk for that matter, but I had a spell of punk rock in the high school years. And I think I kind of left it there. And Bad Religion was one of the bands I listened to, man. It brings back good memories. And, you know, I can relate to their plight, Matt, of the suburbs of Los Angeles, that punk rock group, Bad Religion.
I just never call like what's their hit? Because I've heard of this band, but I'm just so unplugged to punk music. it's not my thing. That I don't know how far back does it go.
Bad Religion goes back to the 80s, man. And on this album, I liked punk rock, and then there's a song called Walk, but I don't think they ever like hit the billboards like that, man. Not like Offspring or Green Day or even hell Rancid. I think they were on the charts for a little minute, but
Yeah, I mean, that's a thing. Like, I feel like, and that's kind of the inherently like what punk is, like underground by definition, right? It's like not
right,
supposed to pop off.
rebellious and
Yeah,
yeah. But it also gives me like that Californiaville, like that Offspring music always gave me. Like it takes me to California, to
yeah.
Bakersfield or wherever, man, and like it feels sunny, it feels happy, it feels free. It's very fast paced. The songs are like 2.5 minutes, maybe 3 sometimes.
Is Offspring punk?
They started off that way, but over time, slowly they became like more alternative and then just kind of like rock. But yeah,
Like Smash isn't really necessarily punk. There's no, I mean, there's
they
some
have fast paced, like
true. You're the expert. Bad Religion, never listened to them, you know, so I can't tell you, but I love the name.
yeah. I feel like if you don't like punk, you're not going to rock with Bad Religion. But I
It just doesn't. It's not. I mean, I don't know. It's just a crazy music, you know. To each his own. I know there's it's more to me like the allure of punk is like the vibe of punk and like
yeah,
the definition of being like counterculture and shit like that. But all the music, I'm not. Sorry, punk fans, just not into it.
no
You know?
need to apologize. It's a niche following. But in 1998, Dark City premieres. A man struggles with memories of his past, which include a wife he cannot remember and a nightmarish world no one else ever seems to wake up from. Directed by Alex Proyas, starring Rufus Sewell, Kiefer Sutherland, Jennifer Connelly, Richard O'Brien, Ian Richardson, and William Hurt.
Yeah, in this movie, did you ever see this, Steve? Did you watch this?
I watched it over the week, man, and I couldn't really pick up what they were laying down, man. It was like a lot going on.
It just seems like I don't know. It's just a crazy movie. There's a lot of crazy visuals. It's creepy. There's like these weird, like white, just powder looking dudes in like
Yeah.
BDSM suits and shit. But I remember just being kind of. I didn't hate this movie as a kid. I just thought it was kind of like one of those weird movies you watch and almost has like a Hellraiser vibe to it a little bit.
So you
Um,
saw it when it first came out.
I mean, I saw it on like VHS. I don't know if it was exactly, you know, whenever it released, I saw
Okay.
it. I remember watching it with my boys in Charlemont, but it looks cool. I will say that. Alex Proyas, I know he's directed other very cool like things, and it's always sort of like dystopian stuff, I think, for the most part. And that's kind of what this is.
Yeah.
Like Dark City is like you said, it's the secret underground. There's some sort of weird telepathy or like mind control shit that these weird powder guys can do, or they're manipulating reality. It's a whole thing. It's a crazy fucking movie. Let's just put it. You want to put a tagline? It's a crazy fucking movie.
Pretty much. And I feel like I shouldn't have watched this casually. It's not a movie you can watch casually. You have to kind of be all in. And like, I was on the laptop and I was going back and forth. And it's just like there are certain things like none of it is going to make sense, man, if you look down long enough.
Yeah, and I think it's purposely kind of meant to confuse you a little bit because I don't think they ever like state like when it's supposed to take place. It's like seems to take place like the way they like Kiefer Sutherland looks is like kind of steampunky. You know, there's just like a
Yeah.
weird. That's really the best thing I can say. I think there's probably like things that they like concessions that had to be made because I feel like this is just a movie where the guy making it wanted it to be like this insanity and like somebody stepped in and like minimized that a little bit and probably changed it, which is why it's probably not as good as
It
you know,
could
like
be.
you said, you kind of get bored watching it, but I think it's kind of worth a watch. It's nice to see Kiefer Sutherland do something like this. It's a kooky fucking movie, dude. That's all I can say.
On that same day in 98, The Real Blonde premieres. Joe and Mary live in Manhattan. She's the breadwinner working as a makeup artist. He's a wannabe actor working as a waiter. When a friend gets a soap part, Joe Lowers His Standard, directed by Tom DeCillo, starring Matthew Modine, Catherine Keener, Daryl Hannah, Maxwell Caulfield, Elizabeth Berkley, Marlo Thomas, Bridget Wilson, Buck Henry, Christopher Lloyd, Kathleen Turner, Dennis Leary, Steve Buscemi, and Dave Chappelle.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
How did they have a budget? Jesus.
And this is actually a continuation of Living in Oblivion, that movie that was showed at like every film class with Steve Buscemi and
Oh
Catherine Keener.
yeah, it's behind the scenes of like how movies are made,
Yeah.
dramatization. Yeah, that was definitely in my education as well, Steve. I love that. That was the go-to.
And I would recommend this over watching Dark City. I actually watched this. It's available on Peacock, and you do see a little bit of Bridget Wilson titty.
Okay.
She never showed that. This is Sonya Blade, Veronica Vaughn, and
Yeah. Okay.
yeah. She plays a hot little model, and Catherine Keener, she plays a makeup artist. Matthew Modine's Mr. Sergeant Joker. He's he's the wannabe actor that's a waiter, and like all their characters are tied into each other because Matthew Modine, he's dating Catherine Keener, who's doing work with Bridget Wilson, the model, and she is dating Maxwell Caulfield, Mr. Rex Manning from fucking Empire Records, and he's a dick. He like Maxwell Caulfield, he's actually getting work. He's on a soap part, and he has this thing with his co-star who's played by Kathleen Turner, who's also hot in this. And yeah, it becomes a whole thing. It's actually really well done. Steve Buscemi, it's the same character that he had in Living in Oblivion, and Dave Chappelle plays like his assistant. He has a small, like I think he's only in like maybe one or two scenes.
What
But
year is this? 99?
this is 98.
Okay.
About a month after Half Baked came out. Yeah.
That was I don't know, man. It's crazy they continued that. I didn't know there was like a continuation of that Living in Oblivion thing.
Well, that was directed by Tom DeCillo too.
That's crazy. Well, congrats. I mean, it caught on. Were these like popular movies? Because I only know them, that one specifically, because of film school. And I didn't think too much of it, even though it had like Buscemi and stuff. I mean, I thought that was cool, but
I think at the time it was probably only known around film students, probably.
yeah, because it is kind of like a student. It almost has that feel a little bit like
Yeah.
a student film about making movies. But hey, that's cool, man. I mean, for sure. I wasn't my thing, but to me, the best making of movie is Full Tilt Boogie, where they cover making Dusk Till Dawn. Sorry.
Yeah, I remember we watched that.
Taste. It's good, but this is cool. And I mean, anything with Buscemi, you got to respect, dude. Buscemi's a legend.
And Chappelle and Bridget Wilson titty.
Bridget Wilson titty. I'll watch it just for that, Steve.
Yeah, so fine. And Veronica Vaughn. Yeah, Hall of Fame for her. But any callbacks, honorable mentions, or takeaways?
I watched, and this was in the 90s. The first X-Men movie, Steve, with Hugh Jackman, like the first.
That was like 2000, 2001.
No, was it?
We definitely would have talked about it at this point.
I worked at the movie theater. Anyway, well, I guess that's out. But I did want to I don't have anything to discuss now. So no, I don't. How about you?
Yeah, X-Men, that was July 14, 2000.
Damn. Well, it was a few months off. It was close. It was almost there. But
yeah.
It was a good movie. That's all I was gonna say. I was gonna say shout out Hugh Jackman for just being he did it, Steve. He helped bring the comic book movies to life. So I love that.
There's nothing wrong with that. Shout out to the man anyway. Hugh Jackman, he's the only person I feel suited for that role.
It's hard to not see anybody else. That's for goddamn sure. I mean, they're gonna keep using him. They made the joke in Deadpool and Wolverine that he's going to be playing the character until he's like 90. And that might not be inaccurate, Steve.
The man was made for that role. Like
he must love doing it. I mean, you got to the dude gets, no pun intended, jacked. Jackman gets jacked for these roles. So he must love it, you know?
Yeah. It's blasphemous to think of any other person in that role.
Yeah. I mean, I'd love to see who they bring to the table, but it's going to be tough.
Yeah, but all I got, man, 1990 Wonder Years, Dustin Diamond makes an appearance. So shout out to him. R.I.P. to Dustin Diamond, man. We love you, Screech. In 94, No, fuck that. In 95, Blossom is airing The Date, and she goes on a date with James Marsden. He's like on the football team, and he's dreamy, and he's got dimples, and blah, blah, blah. And he assaults her on the date. And it's one of those.
Bars?
Yeah, man.
Cyclops, dude?
What's wrong with you, bro? Like,
that's fucked up. He fucks with Blossoms? And tell me Joey gets in the mix.
I haven't made it to the next episode yet.
Or
Because
the dad's gonna get he's gonna get a couple of punches in.
Well, at the end, the dad, his immediate reaction was like, "I'm going to kill him."
Well, get him.
Because she didn't want to tell him at first, man. Because like he not only like he tried to make the moves on her, and she's like, "Stop!" He slapped the shit out of her, and so like she wanted to keep it to herself, and he just kept pressing. He just kept pressing, like, "Okay, if there's nothing wrong." Then she finally gave in, man. But yeah, that was one of those very, very special episodes. Fresh Prince is airing that same day. The Wedding Show, Psych. Isaac Hayes makes an appearance. Shout out to that, man. And in 98, Sabrina's airing the band episode, and the Backstreet Boys make an appearance.
Okay.
Tell Kendra.
Dude, I'll tell her to check that one out. She can gush on that.
Yeah, but they're only in the end credits though. They pop up like they're supposed to be like a talent show at the school, and there's like, well, they're like coming up at the end, and they're like, has everyone left? Because they're like all shy and shit. And they start singing, and then like everybody comes out like, oh my god, who are these guys?
Oh my god, AJ, the Kane.
But please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Please tell your little sister that she is just a fucking bitch. She is just a fucking bitch. Check out Food Show Fanatics as well as Crushgasm and our guy Clark the Shark on Podcastle. This is Steve G and Maggie with
Happened in the 90s.
Matt was the fat kid, Steve was the flat kid. Life wasn't always great, but you know what was? The 90s. Happened in the 90s. Yeah!
Funky, butt loving,